Senior professors, please occupy the empty seats in your front. Thank you, sirs. Professors, occupy the empty seats in front. Thank you. Approach the throne of grace with confidence. Be confident. Please, let's do that quickly. Thank you, sirs. Why don't they run? Well, I don't want promotion. There's a heads of educational establishments. Professor Salenkai, please sit in front, sir. Audience on my bay, I borrow. Thank you, sir. Guys, no na follow una brother. Una de fear. God they promote you now. Thank you, sirs. Is called to order. Auditorium called to order. Please rise for the Vice Chancellor's procession. The Vice Chancellor's procession comprises the order in which we are entering the auditorium. Directors of academic units, directors of institutes, deans of faculties, the dean of students, the dean of postgraduate studies, the provost, College of Medical Sciences, the inaugural lecturer, and principal officers of the university, the Vice Chancellor's procession. The first two stanzas of the national anthem, followed by the Uniben anthem. spirit are indomitable, transformational, and purpose-driven, Madam Project, the #1 Vice Chancellor in Nigeria, Professor Lillian Imwetinya Salami. Please put your hands together. She's ably represented by the Deputy Vice Chancellor Academic, Professor Ray Ozolwa. Another round of applause, please. Thank you. Your Excellencies, other principal officers of our great university, the provost, deans, directors, the inaugural lecturer and family, professors emeriti, other respected and distinguished scholars here present, top government functionaries, your royal highnesses, greatest Uniben staff and students, invited guests, gentlemen of the press, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. It's my singular privilege to welcome you to the University of Benin and to today's inaugural lecture, which is the 321st in the series. Please clap for Uniben. We are going places. Today's lecture is to be delivered by a self-effacing academic with a humble mien, yet result-oriented and power-packed, literally. Put your hands together. He's a professor of electrical power systems and machines. Professor Samuel AMAECHI, EK. The topic of lecture, Navigating the Nigerian Complex Power Network, Trajectory of One and Sane to Making a Difference. I now respectfully invite the Registrar of the University, Mr. Ademola Bobola, to introduce the Vice Chancellor and the Vice Chancellor's procession. Mr. Registrar.
May I request that we put our hands together for the Madam Vice Chancellor, ably represented by the Deputy Vice Chancellor Academic, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, kindly allow me to continue to abide by the protocol as already established by the university's PRO, all courtesies duly extended. Today is another milestone in the life of this university, and I'm also sure in the life of the inaugural lecturer, and it's a very unique day, particularly for those who have been following issues concerning the progress of this university. The council of the university as at now having meeting, considering so many vital things for the progress of the university. And that's the first time the council is having its full meeting. So let's put our hands together. Wonderful as that sounds, you may not be able to see the Vice Chancellor physically, because due to that assignment, herself and the Pro-Chancellor and Chairman of Council, due to attend this program, will have to be somewhere else. But possibly could join us before the end of proceedings. So while the acting VC will explain, I want to tender the apology on behalf of Madam Vice Chancellor. Be that as it may, let me also inform us that, as PRO has hinted, the Vice Chancellor is #1 Vice Chancellor in the whole of the Nigerian university system. Currently, we have 273 universities in Nigeria, and of all the leaders, she has been chosen to lead that very distinguished body as the Chairman Committee of Vice Chancellors of Nigerian Universities, and quickly added to that, she is also the Deputy Vice Chair Association of African Universities. That's all the universities in the whole of Africa. I think that deserves a round of applause for Madam Vice Chancellor. Well, I don't want to bore you down so much for that, but I have something to just say about Madam Vice Chancellor and the inaugural lecturer today. If any officer that the VC calls most often in this university, maybe apart from the Deputy Vice Chancellors, is the inaugural lecturer today. So I think that deserves a very warm round of applause. So some of us are here today by commission to attend this particular program in whatever capacity we are. So our own dear Vice Chancellor too is also trying to round up, but in doing that, she is trying to influence women. And for the first time, she organized a very wonderful program for all women to empower women. Early this week, Monday and Tuesday, and women from all backgrounds were brought to this place, which is a milestone also. Professor Lillian Salami is our Vice Chancellor. Please, let's put our hands together. Of course, we have heard today that representing the Vice Chancellor today is one of us, a distinguished fellow of Pharmaceutical Society of Nigeria, Deputy Vice Chancellor Academic, Professor Ray Ozolua. We also have with us the Deputy Vice Chancellor Administration, Professor Mrs. Catherine Upawa. The Deputy Vice Chancellor Ekenwa Campus, Distinguished Professor of Pharmacognosy, Professor B.A. Ayinde. The keeper of our treasury, who must ensure that we have enough money in the purse, Mr. Gabriel Osadolo, the acting bursar. The keeper of our books and scholarly publications, Walter Megison, Esquire, acting university librarian. We have with us today a distinguished medic and the current provost, College of Medical Sciences, Professor Wilson Sado. Representing the Acting Dean School of Postgraduate Studies, Dr. R.S. Eboziaye. And the #1 student on campus, constant star, whether student on campus or not, is always present. The constant star among all the students is a distinguished professor of economics, the Dean Student Affairs, Professor A.C. Hiwodaro. I think the students should clap for the Dean very well. Yes. And we also need to clap very well because the inaugural lecturer today is the man who can switch on lights at any particular time so that we can continue to have continuous light. Let's continue to encourage him by clapping and clapping. Thank you. And of course, we have with us today the host dean, a former rector of a polytechnic, distinguished professor in a very unique field in engineering. He has all the capacity to be the host dean. Professor E.A. Ogunjo. For those of us who observe him, we know he has never appeared in this dress before. I'm not sure I saw the approval for you to put on this gown on this occasion, but Madam Vice Chancellor must have approved. We have with us a former Deputy Vice Chancellor Academic, transforming now to Dean Faculty of Agriculture, Professor David Nosa Izeko. And we have with us the Dean Faculty of Arts, a constant star, bearing the name Professor Constantine Yuka. The Dean School of Basic Clinical Sciences is represented here today by Dr. G.D. Foray. of our Vice Chancellor, who will not want me to be referring to it, but that's the truth. The Vice Chancellor belongs to a faculty. And the Dean handling that faculty is another Kingsley. In this time around, Professor Kingsley Omorogiwa, Dean Faculty of Education. The Dean Faculty of Environmental Sciences, I'm sure he didn't go to Russia this time around. Maybe the Ukraine war has stopped him from going. He's always in Russia. But this time around, he's here with us. He's engineer, surveyor, Professor Eigiato Irugbe Raphael. Please, let's put our hands together for him. The Dean Faculty of Law is ably represented here today by Professor Bright Bazwai. The Dean Faculty of Life Sciences, the Dean of Life, we call him. But we know Jesus Christ is the Dean of Life, according to the Bible. Professor Jerry Orwe. And the Dean Faculty of Management Sciences, a great donor who donated a building recently, has sent his words of apology. And on the basis of that, I proceed to Dean School of Medicine, represented here today by Professor N.O. Enaruna. Professor Enaruna. And the Dean Faculty of Physical Sciences is represented here today. I don't know, Physical Sciences, they always give me some names that I have to struggle to pronounce. Sometimes I go to the Vice Chancellor to take the Chinese version of those names. This time around, the Dean is represented here by Dr. E.G. Maju Oyowo Kowe. I hope one day I will find something to do with the Physical Sciences names. We have the Dean Faculty of Social Sciences, Professor Daniel Tonwe. We have with us also a distinguished professor who was a former Dean of Physical Sciences, who I could call his name very well. He is now the Director Center for Part-Time Programs, all the way in Ekenwa campus. Professor F.E.U. Osagede, the Director Center for Distance Learning Program of this university is represented by Dr. D. Akpon Ebiomare, and the Director Center for Entrepreneurship Development, Distinguished Medic, Professor E.E. Ogiagbe. We have with us the Director Center for Educational Technology, Professor Hassan Orahena, and the Director, Tetfon Center of Excellence in Aquaculture and Fish Technology, Professor Mrs. Patience Ijoma Obo. Please, let's clap for the women in particular. Driving a center of excellence requires a lot of energy. We have another distinguished lady professor, this time around from another field, but on sustainable development goals. There's a center that the university is focusing on. Professor Mrs. Ujiro Igbudu. The Director of Quality Assurance, Academic Quality Assurance, is called Professor Peter I. Sede. And we have a former university orator and a man whose face and voice you always see on radio and television, Professor Eji Eragbe, University Advancement and Development Office. The Director, University Advancement Digital Engineering Center, Engineer Professor Mrs. P.E. Orukwe. The Directorate of External Linkages and Internationalization, Professor E.F.O. Enato. Representing the Director of Students and Guidance Counseling is Mr. Chris Otoibi. The Director of General Studies, Dr. Osamiro Osagiobare. We have with us also the Acting Director, Institute of Education, Professor K. Imaswe. The Acting Director, Institute of Public Administration and Health Sciences Management, Dr. John Osahai. The Acting Director, Central Research Laboratory, Dr. Andrew Amenagaon. Yes, of course. That's the Chinese version of that name, which I have the approval to use it on this occasion. The Director, Center for Maritime and ICT, Dr. F.O. Nwohire. Please pardon my pronunciation. I've told you I've not graduated from that school. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the Vice Chancellor's entourage today was ushered in by Mrs. Eniye Odia from the Senate Matters Division of the Registry. Let's put our hands together for all of them. Like I said earlier, it's a unique day the council is meeting, a day that so many good things are coming the way of the University of Benin. So I have nothing to say than to plead that constant power should continue, because the inaugural lecturer today is the man holding the key to power supply on campus. Madam Vice Chancellor, ably represented, kindly present your address at this occasion.
Thank you. Greatest Uniben. Greatest Uniben. It can yet be louder. Greatest Uniben. Good evening, distinguished audience, comprising the ancient and modern of academics. Special regards to Professor T.O.K. Audu. I also want to specially recognize Professor Titi Wara, once Vice Chancellor of a university and our own alumnus. I want to specially recognize my employer, the employer of most of us here, members of Council of the University of Benin. You're welcome. You're welcome to this great audience. Please permit me from henceforth to align with the protocols so very well established by the university PRO. I usually align. I don't stand on protocols because my weight is too light to make any significant difference. Greetings from the de facto chair of inaugural lectures, our chief priest in this academic temple, and you know her so well, and that is the very distinguished, vivacious, phenomenal, transformational, my VC, your VC, our VC, Professor Lilian Imutia Salami. She's unavoidably absent. She's just been called by the Oba of this kingdom. We're told that the Oba owns the land in University of Benin, in Anambra State, Orumba South, in the North Pole, South Pole, everywhere in the universe, including the White House. Please permit me to proceed. Please permit me to proceed with her address. It is with great delight that I welcome you all to the 321st in the inaugural lecture series of the University of Benin. Today's lecture is the 92nd to be delivered in my tenure as the Vice Chancellor of this university, 4th in the Department of Electrical and Electronic Engineering, and 21st in the Faculty of Engineering. Ladies and gentlemen, I enthusiastically introduce our lecturer for today. He is Professor Samuel AMAECHI, A.K. The title of his lecture is Navigating the Nigerian Complex Power Network, Trajectory of One and Same to Making a Difference. Professor Samuel AMAECHI Ike was born on 23rd May 1973 to the family of late Chief and Mrs. Robinson Alachebe Ike of Lomu Umunze Village, Orumba South Local Government Area of Anambra State. He had his primary school education in Owoto Primary School, Sapele Road, Benin City, where he obtained his first school leaving certificate in 1983. He attended Immaculate Conception College, Benin City from 1983 to 1988, where he obtained the West African School Certificate. Thereafter, he won the Nigerian Ajib Oil Company National Merit Scholarship in 1991 to study Electrical Electronic Engineering, the Federal University of Technology, Yola, Adamawa State, and graduated with Bachelor of Engineering degree, Electrical Electronic Engineering in 1997. Professor Ike undertook the mandatory one-year National Youth Service at the Department of Electrical Electronic Engineering, University of Benin, from 1998 to 1999. In his quest for more knowledge, he obtained the following additional degrees from the University of Benin: Masters in Engineering 2007 and PhD 2008, both on the postgraduate program degrees were in electrical power systems and machines. He also obtained a postgraduate diploma in education in 2017 from the National Teachers Institute in Kaduna. Professor Ike joined the services of the University of Benin in 1999 as a graduate assistant in the Department of Electrical Electronic Engineering and rose through the ranks to the position of professor in 2015. He has held several administrative positions within and outside the University of Benin. Please permit me to abridge, and as the orator would often quote me, there is eloquence in brevity. Coordinator, Equipment Maintenance Center, 2023. To date, Director, Uniben Consultancy Services, 2020 to 2021. Chairman, Uniben Electricity Consumption Monitoring Committee, 2020 to date. Chairman, Uniben Energy Utilization Committee, 2020 to date. Head, Department of Electrical Electronic Engineering, 2017 to 2019. And then he was acting head earlier on, that same department, 2012 to 2014. He's been acting director, Advanced Digital Engineering Center, 2014 to 2015. Member Committee on Telephone, Uniben, representing Equipment Maintenance Center, 2023 to date. Congregation Representative, Capital Project Committee, Uniben, 2007 to 2008. If these do not elicit applause, I wonder what way. Professor Ike is an award recipient of the Nigerian Ajib Oil Company undergraduate scholarship 1993, the Excellent and Productivity Award of the Great University of Benin in 2021. Professor Ike, thank you very much. Professor Ike belongs to several professional bodies and associations, such as one associate member, Nigerian Institute for Biomedical Engineering, corporate member, Nigerian Society of Engineers, member, Council for the Regulation of Engineering in Nigeria. Professor Ike has successfully supervised 5 PhD and over 50 master's theses. And you will say, like DNA, he has replicated himself. He has over 50 publications comprising chapters in books, articles, articles in local, national, and international peer-reviewed journals. He has served as external examiner, assessor, resource person to several polytechnics and universities. He has also served as chairman of accreditation panels for the National Universities Commission and the Council for the Regulation of Engineering in Nigeria. He has attended several local, national, and international seminars, workshops, and conferences. Professor Ike has rendered consultancy services to the governments of Edo and Delta states and has designed and supervised electrical services for some companies and firms. But I should add that he never paid 10% that is supposed to be due to the University of Benin, to the university. So, Registrar, after now, you know what to do. All right. Professor Ike is a Christian and his hobbies include football, lawn tennis, swimming, and reading. He's married to his heartthrob, Mrs. Roslyn Ike, and the union is blessed with 4 lovely children. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to, on behalf of the chief priest of this temple, to invite engineer Professor Samuel AMAECHI Ike to deliver his inaugural lecture.
Vice Chancellor, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I want to align myself, according to the Vice Chancellor's rep, with the already well-established protocol. Protocols? This is basically the power system network that I'm going to navigate today. I dedicate this inaugural lecture to my late parents, Mr. Robinson Ike and Miss Edna Ike, both of blessed memory. My late uncle, Chief Ezekiel Ike Akokaria, and to my lovely family that is seated here, and also to my guardian, Mr. Samsagi, is also here seated, and to the Uniben Power Protection Team. I thank God Almighty for His mercies and for the opportunity to present this inaugural lecture. Madam Vice Chancellor, I'm indeed grateful to you and the entire management team for the opportunity to stand before this audience to deliver the 321st inaugural lecture in the university. I want to also use the opportunity to thank every one of you for finding time to be here. Thank you. The title of this inaugural lecture is Navigating the Nigerian Power Complex Network, Trajectory of One and Same to Making a Difference. It is the fourth to be delivered from the Department of Electrical Electronic Engineering and the 21st from the Faculty of Engineering. In this lecture, I'm going to x-ray the contrast between where we once were, where we are now, and where we can still be to establish the trajectory of what did not change but can be changed in the Nigerian power system network. Electrical power system is basically the interconnection of electrical components that function together to deliver power to consumers. And the major components that are considered in this electrical power system network comprises of the power generating plant itself that generates the electricity, the transmission, the power transformers that steps up or steps down the power generated, the transmission lines that convey the power from where it's generated to the load center, and the distribution lines that distribute the energy within the communities where it is supposed to be used
as well as the distribution transformers and the load. And that is simply depicted in this diagram as presented. This is a typical structure of power system network, extending from generation, that's the generating station, through the transformers and transmission systems, sub-transmission systems, to the load. The load will comprise of the commercial load and industrial load. This is the network I want to navigate. Now, I want you to presume, if you come out from your house and look at your service wire that comes into your house, and you try to navigate that part, I don't know when you'll be able to get to where the generator that serves you power is. If you try that, you probably get lost along the line. So in navigating this part, it's really a complex network. The Nigerian power system network comprises of 23 generators, 60 circuits of 330 kV transmission lines, spanning over 5,650 kilometers. It also has 153 circuits of 132 kV sub-transmission lines, spanning over 6,687 kilometers. All of this, with generators interconnected, is actually a very complex network. And this network is controlled at a particular center called National Control Center, Osogbo. However, as complex as this network has become, power supply to the people has remained inadequate and unreliable. It is on the premise of inadequate and unreliable nature of supply that government over time tried to create several agencies and made policies that will improve the reliability of power supply or the quality of service delivery. On that premise, government established in 1951, as far back as I can trace, a corporation called Electricity Corporation of Nigeria, ECN, in 1951. Thereafter, established Niger Dams Authority, NDA, in 1962. In 1972, National Electric Power Authority was established. All of these agencies that were established were geared towards improving the quality of service delivery to the people. However, NEPA really did not meet up to the expected quality of service delivery. People were disappointed, and at that time, the people nicknamed NEPA to never expect power, always. As people didn't get the quality of service delivery, government felt it was time to baptize NEPA and rename it. NEPA was baptized and it was renamed PHCN, Power Holding Company of Nigeria. Yet, the power holding companies did not release the power. They held it, and government got angry and unbundled them into 3 business units: the GENCOs, the TRANCOs, and the DISCOs. In the year 2009, there was this very well celebrated Nigerian Vision 2020, which was an economic transformation blueprint policy that predicted that 40,000 megawatts of electricity would be delivered to the people in the year 2020. This policy was made in 2009. All of the agencies that were created over the years, the reform policies that were made, all of them were geared towards improving quality of service delivery to the people. Between 2009 and 2024, 15 years after, the question is, what changes have we seen? Currently, as we speak, the installed generating total capacity in the power sector is 13,603 megawatts. The power sector is still struggling to deliver to the people between 3,500 megawatts and 4,700 megawatts, with incessant power outages, frequent system collapse, increasing demand from a population of over 200 million. Again, I ask, where does the difference between 13,603 and 3,500 megawatts go to? In the course of this lecture, we'll begin to illustrate it. The parts that I've talked about navigating from the generating station through the transmission lines, through the distribution line to the load, the consumers, through that part, if you go through it over and over and over, as much as I've related with the public power supply, and my late uncle, Chief Ezekiel, was working with NEPA at that time. He was into maintenance of transmission lines. So I have actually navigated these lines. I've gone on Benin Ikeja West 330 transmission line. I've navigated Benin Onitsha Awada 330 kV transmission line. I have navigated Onitsha Awada to Enugu New Haven 330 kV transmission line, and so many others. In all of this, over and over, all the installed physical facilities had barely changed. The installed turbines, power transformers, transmission and distribution line conductors, local distribution transformers, and they are this time very obsolete, weak, and are being stretched beyond their thermal limit. Because of this, over the past 13 years, between 2010 and 2023, the national power grid has collapsed a minimum of 222 times, both at partial and total collapse. That is also an indicative the power system is still very fragile. Despite all of those agencies and policies that government has made, if you go down the history lane, you never find at any time or a place where up to 30% of those policies were ever implemented. According to Ujaman, he said the reason can be traced to what is termed the 3 C's, or 3 lacks. Lack of continuity, lack of consistency, and lack of commitment. He went on to say, is indeed associated with the individual self-centeredness, corruption, and poor implementation. In all of the policies, agencies, name changing, the story never changed. The people are asking for light, and government is talking about megawatts. We got to a point where the people say, keep your megawatts and give us light. We have found that all of those policies that were made, because there's no continuity, the government was not able to get anything out of those policies and the agencies. Vice Chancellor, ma'am, please, with your kind permission, I'd like to ask, do these policy makers read the minutes of the last meeting before they begin the next one? What role does matters arise in play in these meetings? How is continuity and consistency ensured? The trajectory has remained one and same. The more things change, the more they stay the same. This is the core of what I want to speak about today. Vice Chancellor, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, follow me as I interrogate strategies of enforcing in a difference. This is the map of Nigeria showing power plants and their location with the red dots spotted on the Nigerian map, you observe closely that most of those generating stations or the generating plants are sited in the southern part of the country with a few around the north central. However, the bulk energy that is generated must be transmitted to the far northeast and to the far northwest. In electrical engineering, losses is as a result of I square R. The resistance is a function of the distance. This power must be transmitted across these distances to supply power to the northeast and the northwest, thereby introducing inherent power losses in the network and voltage drop. I'm sure my dean will agree with me on that. Here again, whilst navigating this network, I put here the current power plant types and capacity. The interest here is to establish the types of plants that we have in the network. There are 15 single cycle gas turbines in the network and only 5 combined cycle gas turbines. The 15 of the single cycle gas turbine has a single turbine that burns to generate electricity, while in the combined cycle gas turbine, there are 2 turbines that burns to generate electricity. These are more reliable and more efficient. Yet, in the Nigerian network, we have less of the reliable plants than more of the reliable. If we had had it the reverse, it would have been better for us. I said, in the course of my research and the work that I've done over time, also in electrical engineering, 4 basic concepts have really not changed. They have remained the same over the years. Generation, how power is generated, is no new principle. How power is transmitted from one location to another is not also a new theory. How power gets to the consumer is not a new principle, and what uses this generated power. Therefore, in the course of the exercise of my work, I've had the opportunity to install a 1 MVA transformer that was procured by management for the new hostel layout. We have relocated and installed 1,000 kVA generator to the new hostel also. I have installed solar power system for many of my friends, both within and outside the university. Therefore, with the background of this, I am sure if fund is available to the university, Professor Nohaibi, the Dean, Faculty of Engineering, Andrew Ameno, Professor Igbunovia, and so many other engineers in the university can have installed a dedicated power plant for the university if the fund is available. I also said, once I looked at work done, I've found out that if we have a government that is sincere and is committed to the well-being of the people, it is only then that we can imagine or talk about where we can still be. But my worry is when will this kind of government come? I leave that to my opponent to answer. Vice Chancellor, ma'am? It is the pride of every engineer to ensure that his work works, because every engineer's work is in the open for everyone to see. I therefore at this point wish to present some of my research experiences and consequent application of this result outcome in the service delivery to humanity. According to Herbert Hoover, the 31st American president in 1933, and I quote, "Engineering is a great profession. In it, a figment of imagination emerges through the aid of science to plan on paper. Then it moves to realization in form of stone, metal, or energy. This brings jobs and homes to men, then elevates the standard of living and adds to comfort of life. That is the engineer's high privilege. He went on to say that the great liability of the engineer compared to men of other professions is that his works are out in the open, where all can see them. His acts, step by step, are in hard substance. On the other hand, unlike the doctor, he is not a strong among the weak. Unlike the soldier, destruction is not his purpose. Unlike the lawyer, quarrels, cho-cho-cho, is not his daily bread. To the engineer falls the job of clothing the bare bones of science with life, comfort, and hope. No doubt as years go by, the people forget which engineer did it, even if they ever knew, or some politician put his name on it. But the engineer himself looks back at the unending stream of goodness which flows from his successes with satisfaction. The engineer simply cannot deny he did it. If his works do not work, he is damned. In the course of my work, the successes made and the satisfaction that flowed with it, I can attribute to some of them to Professor Yuka, Dean of Arts, Professor Tunwe, Dean of Science, Social Sciences, my own Dean of Engineering, and my daughter here also. Each time there's a fault in the network, and I've moved my men to fixing the fault. Once we restore power to these persons, they called me back to say, Prof, light has been restored. Thank you. Thank you. Power availability as it is, whilst we're here, we mean that the actual time per year that power is available at the consumer's terminal, assuming the required external resources are provided. What this means, the graph that I put up is indicating availability in respect to uptime and downtime. If the generator is running, that is when the consumer has power. If the generator is not running, the consumer does not have power. But availability at the generator end, as depicted here, is if the generator component fails and the time to repair is minimal and returned into circuit, it means that the generator continues to run. Therefore, the higher the uptime, the lower the downtime, and then you can talk about higher availability. Now I took it in this order to look at how often are these generators available to deliver power to the consumers. I took the successor generators, or the successor generating stations. In 2014, Ike, Ogeva, and AMAECHI, we carried out an investigation on the Kainji hydropower station availability and unit performance. We used the NEC and IEEE standard 676 generator performance indices. And that investigation revealed that that generating station, a hydro generating station, was only available for the year less than 50% in the year. And the various units that were in the circuit, the availability percentage are also presented. And the major reason for this as a result of forced or scheduled outages due to ailing components. I'll explain that. In Ogeva, Ike, and AMAECHI, we also looked at Supply thermal power station generator availability and unit performance studies. We also used the NEC and IEEE standard 762 generator performance indices, and the result also showed that the supply power plant, the some unit availability of supply power station is 23%. The reason is that the supply power station was built in 1981 and has still been in service between that time and now, and it is well over 40 years. The manufacturers of these unit plant generators in supply power station does no longer exist, and there are no spare parts for the maintenance. That's why ST4 and ST5s are zeros. They have been completely cannibalized. The conception of availability by different people is a function of perception and utilization. What does availability mean to you? Is when you need energy that you remember that you have the need to look for power. Then I categorize what availability will mean to people. For the economics, if power is available and is sent to industries, then the power will drive the electric motors. The industries will be operational. It then increases productivity and creates jobs, then improves standard of living. That's what availability will mean to the economists. If you look further down, availability will mean to some persons that the food and the foodstuff are well preserved in the fridge. My wife is most worried when the food is getting spoiled. She's asking when is power coming back. So to some women, they are concerned about the refrigerator to preserve their food. However, if power is available to you, we'll ask the president of Senior Staff Club if what I presented is true. When energy is available, it is key that this energy should be well managed, particularly now that we are in Band A. The DISCOs have classified consumers into different categories. Category A, Category B, C, and the rest. The university is on Category A or on Band A. And when they bring electricity bill to us, this electricity bill is classified in terms of kilowatt hour. What is kilowatt? Watt is unit of power, and kilo is 1,000. So once you put 1,000 and add watt, you'll be talking of 1,000 watts of power. If you use that 1,000 watts for 1 hour, you would have done 1 kilowatt hour. Another analogy is if you have 10 bulbs that are rated 100 watts each, if you put them together, you have 1,000 watts. If you run or turn on those bulbs to stay on for 1 hour, you would have consumed 1 kilowatt hour. Now I try to do an assumption for the university so that we know where we are on this Band A issue. The conventional or the typical office in the university will have maybe 2 light bulbs, 1 AC of 1 horsepower at minimum, 1 tabletop refrigerator, and 1 TV set. If you convert the wattage of this and their horsepowers, you get 0.06 for the bulbs. 2 of them is 60 watts. then the AC is 1.1 kilowatts, then the tabletop refrigerator is 0.74 kilowatts, and the TV set again 0.06 kilowatts. If you put all of that together, they come to 1.96 kilowatts. If you arrived office by 8 a.m. and stayed on till 4 p.m., you would have done 8 hours in the office. If you turned on these appliances and they run for the 8 hours that you were in the office, you would have done the 1.96 kilowatts multiplied by the 8 hours and multiplied by the current tariff, which is 210 as it stands down. That means in that 8 hours you stayed in the office, you would have incurred for the university 3,293 naira per that day per one office. If you did this for the 22 working days of the month, you multiply the 3,293, which you use for a day, by the 22 days, you would have incurred for the university 72,446 naira per month per one office. I also went ahead to assume that if you have 2,000 offices in the university, if you multiply that by the 72,446 per one office, you will get 144,892,000 for the 2,000 offices in the university. We'll probably have more. In this instance, we have not considered perhaps the auditorium, the lecture theaters, the classrooms, and staff club also. Hostels as well, that's fine. I was going to get there. Another analogy that I put up here that is of concern, across the faculties, units, and their environs, if you come in here, you find that there are so many surrounding lights that are never turned off, surrounding security lights. The assumption is that the security men should monitor these surrounding security lights. But if you drive around the university, you see quite a number of them running during the day that they are supposed not to. I also have assumed that if you find 100 bulbs that are rated 100 watts, if you leave them on for between 7 a.m. and 6 p.m., you find that you would have incurred for the university 23,100 per day. And if that repeats for 30 days, you would have had 693,000 per month. Something should be done to save and conserve energy. I looked at the hostels. I said, the hot place in the hostels, you can't quantify, but the Dean of Students is doing his best to minimize the use of hostel. But I tell you, if you consider that, your guess could be as good as mine. But we have to remind the students that the energy that is consumed must be paid, because in Freetown, there is... Thank you. Having considered the availability of the generating station, we went on to assess how energy is wheeled from the generating station to where it should be consumed, the load center. At one time, IKE and AMAECHI in 2018, we did the loadability analysis and the effect of generation and transmission expansion in Nigeria. In that research, we established that the network, as at 2018, could only evacuate between 3,500 megawatts to 4,200 megawatts. And at that time, the generating capacity was well over 8,000 megawatts. We'll try to find out why. The network, this transmission line as shown, is inefficient, poor interconnectivity because there are more of radial lines, have high level of power losses, and the power station breakdowns. He also established in this work that over 30% of generated power is lost in the line, and we call this a weak link in the chain. In commercial areas, these are the kind of connection you find in commercial areas in cities. How do you determine which of these wires is on a particular phase? This will result to what you call phase imbalance, and it introduces instability and reduces reliability of supply. Let me tell you what happens in this kind of connection. If you live around this area, very often times you have to go to your cutout fuse to remove one and try the next. If there's no power remove, you try the other. That will mean if you look out your window and you find there is power anywhere, light in anybody's house, you go try your own. Once you connect to the line that has power, the next man does his own, everybody is transferring to that particular phase. It gets to a point, maybe after 30 minutes, the fuse will also cut. And there's people, oh, that phase has gone. You may turn around again, you see another one phase. In 2010, the federal government approved the construction of super grid that will address to a large extent the power transmission problem by incorporating 750 kV with the existing 330 kV and 132 transmission line. This was proposed to be completed within 4 years. That would have been 2014, but that project never saw the light of the day. Idiagi and Ike decided to review that proposal to see the impact it would have made. We modeled that proposal by interfacing the proposed 750 kV transmission line onto the existing 330 kV and 132, and did a simulation to ascertain the evacuation capacity of this proposed network. And we found that this network was able to evacuate 8,194 megawatts of the 13,603 in generation, with improved loss reduction, and the statutory limit of buses improved also. Here again in Ehorobo and Ike, 2017, we did a proposal to Federal Ministry of Power to offtake power from Iyowo substation because it's close to us. And this is a schematic of what we did. This would help us avoid taking power from the grid, the transmission line and the distribution line that is weak, so that we'll have a straight line from the generating station to the university. This proposal was approved and contract awarded. And Madam VC appointed me a lead team to oversee that this project meets the project constructional standard and design specification. And here we are at the completion of the project. That's the reason why the University of Benin has had reliable and sustainable power supply. But however, BDC has messed it up by stamping on us Band A and their tariff. So the fear of Band A is the beginning of wisdom and tariff. In power distribution within the university, we have adopted what we call a ring main unit. Madam Vice Chancellor, this is a recurring issue in the university every time we talk about a ring main unit. And my friends in audit, each time we take our paper there, they say, you brought again another ROMU. And someone have told me, what does ROMU mean? I told him, he will understand. What he said, what he knows is ROMU is romance me urgently, because it was a recurring issue. Every time we're trying to fix ROMU, and the guy said, each time we bring this document, we want it urgently, and he termed it romance me urgently. But let me tell you what RMU does, and with apologies to the Dean of Life Sciences, Physical Sciences, sincere apologies, my bossa, my apologies. I want to use this analogy to explain what we have been going through in the recent time. The RMU enables us to have a ring connection in the university. And I've done this analogy between engineering and physical science and life sciences. The RMU will permit us to have a double route in a ring to have alternate supply across this line. But with switching, we can redirect power flow on this line. Now, route B is supplying power from our control room to the transformer that powers Faculty of Life Science and Physical Sciences. And route A supplies engineering through another route. As it stands, the cable that is coming from route B had a problem. I will be trying to locate the problem, so there is no power to Faculty of Physical Sciences, Life Sciences, and the bursary. We try to do a bypass by opening the switch C so that we can close switch A, engineering, close switch B, and open switch C. So power can return from engineering through switch B to Physical Sciences and Life Sciences. When we tried that and closed that switch B, we realized that the armored cable between engineering and physical science has also gone bad. Now we have been tracing the fault. Route A and Route B, we couldn't find the means to supply power to physical sciences, bursary, and the environs. However, I like to tell that Madam VC had graciously approved the replacement of the cable that will connect RMU1 to RMU2, and that will be completed in a short while. Here again, a student ran into one of these RMUs and damaged the switch gears, the solid links, the cable terminals, the raking kits, and the oil tank. We took out this vehicle, and the RMU was already in shambles. Related to management, and we sought to replace the RMU. We're told it costs 8.5 million. So we took a shot at it, took all the dismantled members to the workshop, as you can see, and took a shot at it. Here the RMU is, and completely in service. Vice Chancellor, ma'am, I'm glad to inform this great audience that we have maintained and sustained the 35 RMU units within the Ugbo campus of University of Benin for continuity of reliable supply till date at a minimal cost. In Ike and Ike, Pastor Ike, please, are you there? Yes. Pastor Ike is was one of my PhD students back in the years. He's traveled all the way from Lagos to be here. Thank you. In this research, we'll try to find out, because of the nature of the oil that is contained in transformers and this RMU, they are not environmental friendly, they are hazardous in nature and non-biodegradable. So each time they drop on the ground, they stay there for a long time, they don't go away, and they can burn. So we'll try to take a shot on finding an alternative to transformer oil. We investigated 4 mineral oils: melon oil, sunflower oil, coconut oil, and corn oil. In our analysis, we realized that of the 4 vegetable oils, sunflower oil and melon oil exhibited good insulating electrical property at standard measurements. Here again, we are trying to do measurement on transformer oil and repairs. Vice Chancellor, I have trained well over 50 IT students in this unit where we work, and we have maintained and sustained the 58 transformer in Inaugural and Ekenwa campus. In Ike and Ubeku 2018, in computer simulation of lightning strike to horizontally buried earth electrode, a parametric analysis. Here we try to find alternative paths to lightning discharge at the easiest point. This was to establish the transient response of lightning discharge in installation. The results showed that the transient response is 97.45% efficient at a depth of 1.83 meters. And that, on the premise of the earthing background that we had, we were able to arrest the long lingering issue of damages on electrical and electronic equipment in the administrative building by reassessing the state of the lightning arrestor and the earthing around the building as shown. Vice Chancellor, considering the gains made in the research and practical experiences, navigating the power system network as complex as it can get, I'd like to, at this point, make recommendation that can resolve the daunting challenges in the power sector, considering the fact that, one, matching electricity supply with demand in Nigeria is almost impossible with the low electricity output from the power plants and the population. Two, the power plants are not also operating at their full capacity, which negatively affects the grid. Therefore, I recommend as follows. To solve the problem of electricity access in Nigeria, the first step is to begin with the power plants. Most of the power plants in Nigeria consist of single-cycle gas turbine, which is less efficient in the power generation as compared to the more efficient combined cycle gas turbine. I also deployed that the SCGT is an obsolete technology. Another issue is the location of the power plant, which is mostly situated in the southern part of the country. It is necessary for the federal government to build some plants in the northern region, especially in the northeastern part of the country, to reduce transmission distance and the associated losses by integration of distribution generation, such as solar and wind turbines. The security of fuel source for power generation could be improved by channeling the flared associated gases to the various power plants within the country and also providing proper security for the gas pipelines. There is need for proper maintenance of transmission and distribution network. Human capacity development should be improved through regular training program for staff and engineers in the electricity sector to ensure excellent service delivery. The government needs to also increase funding for the power sector. The issue of policy and project continuity should be taken seriously. This can be addressed by establishment of an agency that will ensure project completion and policy continuity irrespective of change in government, so that the government do not look like a group of people who do not read the minutes of the last meeting before starting a new one. Madam Vice Chancellor, in conclusion, electricity access is an important factor which speeds up development in most economies of the world. Nigerians' access to electricity has been below economically acceptable level and has not improved in the recent times due to some obstacles. These obstacles were identified in this presentation, and they include low efficiency and performance, poor power generation, regulatory barriers, poor grid structure, dilapidated transmission and distribution network, low financial investment, lack of policy and project continuity. A way forward has been presented to making a difference in order to improve electricity access in Nigeria. The expected improvement may not be immediate, but will be a gradual process. I would like to conclude by reiterating the words of the great engineer Ujaman in the first Faculty of Engineering lecture series relating the biblical injunction as to seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all other things shall be added. And for me, I say, for the sake of economic and industrial growth with associated human capital development, let us all seek first adequate and reliable electrical power, and every other thing shall be added. This will sure make a difference. I want to thank God Almighty for the opportunity to deliver this lecture. I'm most grateful to the Creator, without whom all of this would not have been possible. My immense gratitude to Madam Vice Chancellor, Professor Lillian Imotia Salami, and the entire management team for the opportunity. I sincerely appreciate my PhD supervisor, Engineer Charles Anyenji, also Professor T.O.K. Audu and Professor S.O. Onahebi for standing by me during the course of my PhD work. Prof, thank you, sir. I'm greatly indebted to my dearest beloved wife. Thank you. Ms. Rosalind Ogochukwuike, and the mother of my 4 adorable and God-gifted children, Chinonso, Chiamaka, Chinedu, and Chimamanda. All cheese. I sincerely appreciate the sacrifice and contribution of my late parents, Chief Robinson Ike Okweruzu, and Mrs. Edna Ike, and my late uncle, Chief Ezekiel Obialo Ike Akokaria 1. I thank my entire family members, immediate and extended, for their support. I'd like to, in a special way, appreciate the chaplain, Reverend David Egbenusi, the spiritual leaders, and the entire members of First Saint Chapel, University of Benin. Thank you, sir. Many thanks to Mr. Samsagi, Professor Okolocha, and Chief Ejike Nemo for their fatherly disposition to me. I say thank you. I appreciate my special appreciation to my distinguished colleagues within the university community, the provost, the deans, directors, heads of department, professors, academic and non-academic members of staff of the university. I thank all of you. To Immaculate Conception College Old Boys Association, ICOBA 88 set, I thank you for being here. Members of the Senior Staff Club of University of Benin, many thanks. My special thanks go to the executive and members of my association and social club, the Cooperation Brothers Club, CBC, the Igbo Youth Vanguard, IYV, my Flip Mode Squad friends in Uniben and UBTH and the environment. I am grateful for all the fruitful time we shared and the knowledge gained. I sincerely thank all my friends who have traveled far and wide to be here, particularly my PhD students. Ike, you're welcome, sir. Thank you all for listening.
Please, I want us to put our hands together again. Thank you. Please sit. Council members, please don't go yet. Please let me acknowledge you specially before you leave. Thank you, sirs and ma'ams. You will agree with me that this has been a very incisive lecture, one that we could all relate with. In fact, it's a rare opportunity for the university audience to understand some of the issues of power supply on our campus. But I dare say that the greatest cheerleader of the lecturer is his wife. Throughout the lecture, she grinned molar to molar, and at a point, she blew him a kiss. Madam, thank you. If I have the kind permission of Madam Vice Chancellor, please, I'll just adjust a little as I acknowledge very specially, because I know they have been meeting since yesterday, hours upon hours, as we are honored to have in our presence the governing council of our great university. We have seated a former member of the House of Representatives, the Right Honorable Samson Osagie. Thank you, sir, for coming. Another honorable member, another former honorable member of Nigeria's House of Representatives, Right Honorable Rufai Ahmed Chachangi. Thank you, sir, for coming. We welcome the representative of the Honorable Minister of Education, Mr. Emmanuel Kehinde Oshinaike. Welcome, sir. We also welcome Hajia Adigun Aminat. Welcome all the way from Ogun State. Welcome, ma. We welcome Mrs. Chineye Ngozi Chukudile. Welcome. Most of them came from Abuja for the meeting. We thank you once again for honoring us with your presence. May I, at this juncture, we shall take other recognitions shortly. I would now like to invite respectfully the Acting Vice Chancellor to recap this wonderful lecture. Acting VC, sir.
Greatest Uniben. You agree with me that this has been the most stimulating, exciting lecture. And so, another round of applause. And I think the wife deserves a round of applause. You know what? To her, ROMU means only one thing. And that is ring me unit. Whatever anyone else wants to think, that's the person's problem. But we are truly proud of Professor Ike. The scales are falling from our eyes. We know better now what the electricity situation is. My recap. He has told us that in our present world, electricity is the most widely used and desirable form of energy. Electricity is ubiquitous. It is indispensable. One important observable trend is that the increase in a country's population results to increase in electricity demand. The lecture has x-rayed the contrast between where we once were, where we are now, and where we ought to be, considering the rate of the nation's population growth and its electricity development. The lecture points to the fact that the nation's electricity generation is far less than the energy requirement of its people, and consumption from the national grid has always been below the generated capacity, and this trend has persistently continued. He has highlighted the fact that electricity access is an important factor which speeds up development in most economies of the world. Nigeria's access to electricity has been below economically acceptable level, he says, and has not improved in recent times due to some obstacles. The obstacles he identified in the presentation include low efficiency and performance, security of fuel source for power, regulatory barriers, lack of institutional arrangement, poor grid structure, dilapidated transmission barriers, lack of institutional arrangement, poor grid, well, I'm repeating that, low financial investment, lack of policy and project continuity. And it seems to me that he missed out something. And that key problem in my mind is corruption, involving all stakeholders in the power equation. The question in my mind, and rhetorically for that matter, is, are we ready to change? The expected improvement may not be immediate, but he tells us that we can approach it gradually. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished audience, please join me to accentuate, put a signature of approval to his professorship with a thunderous round of applause. And members of council, my employers, please, the Vice Chancellor has asked me to do the unusual. What is this unusual? He requests that we say something about Professor Sam Ike. The Vice Chancellor knows a man that she calls around the clock. Why so? because peace, productivity, safety, security, and what have you around campus is anchored on the efforts of this man. Staff call him every now and then, making damning, derogatory, defamatory statements. And sometime last week he came to my office, he says, DVC, say I'm tired. Can you imagine the way some of my colleagues call me? They forget that I'm a professor like them. There is no light in this building, and we told you since last week. They talk to him as if he's their boy. And so the Vice Chancellor has said we should specially recognize Professor Sam Ike. Although, Professor Ike, you didn't include the Vice Chancellor as one of those that called to thank you when electricity is restored. The time of honor has come. So could you get up? And gentlemen, the man who makes electricity available to every one of us on campus, daytime, nighttime, in the hill, in the valley, Professor Sam Ike. And I plead that to make this truly memorable, why don't we stand? Of the University of Benin, in appreciation for your uncommon dedication in ensuring that this university enjoys adequate electricity supply, presented to you this day on behalf of Madam Vice Chancellor, the Council, Management, and indeed all stakeholders in the University of Benin.
And the children, please share in his moment of glory. Please come as he is decorated. Please sit down, audience. The wife and children, please come. And I dare say one of those who also calls Professor Ike, although with utmost respect, because as PRO, when light goes out, I'm the one they call. I don't know anything about electricity, so all my calls fall back to Professor Ike. Another round of applause, please. Even when we come here and the ACs are not working, it's to Professor Ike that I call, but with respect. Thank you very much, sir, for always being there and answering promptly. And so we want to welcome very specially his darling wife, Mrs. Roslyn Ogochukwu Ike. Put your hands together. His children, David Chinonso Ike, Daniela Chiamaka, Desmond Chinedu, Divine Favor Chimamanda, the daughter. We welcome also some family members who are here. Mr. Moses Ike, who is the older brother. Mrs. Fidelia Ozoimena, his sister. Mr. Sam Sage, former Chief of Staff to the late Governor Ambrose Ali. We welcome Chief Enlolo Ejike Enemo, my brother Knight. Welcome, sir. We welcome very specially the chaplain of All Saints Chapel, Uniben, Venerable Osaze Egbenusi. Welcome, sir. We welcome Professor Emeritus T.O.K. Audu. We welcome the immediate Vice Chancellor, Havila University, Cross River State, Professor Engineer Samuel Wara. We also welcome his darling wife, who is representing the Vice Chancellor of Wellspring University. She's also the acting registrar, Dr. Helen Uzezi Wara. We welcome the former DVC Ekenwan campus, Professor Joel Abolagba. Welcome, sir. We welcome the University Orator, Professor Mike Omwegberale. We welcome also Professor Patrick Uwadia, Venerable Professor Mon Wandiani. Welcome, sir. Okay. We welcome very specially the Deputy Governor of Edo State, His Excellency Omobayo. Welcome, sir. Please put a bigger round of applause, please. He just came and he just sat humbly. Thank you, sir, for your humility. You're most welcome. Thank you. Yes, sir. We welcome Professor Godfrey Ariavier. We welcome Professor Chris Izion. We welcome the Director of Public-Private Partnership, Uniben, Professor Nelson Ojukwu Ogba. Please put your hands together for the former Dean Physical Sciences, Professor Joseph Osenehai. We welcome the CEO, Royal Choice Inn, Chief Felix Akiga. Welcome, sir. We welcome Engineer Professor Ralph Edokbea. We welcome Professor Friday Odiase. I know you are serving refreshment, but please do that gently, no noise. We welcome Professor Stephen Uwamusi. We welcome Professor Charles Imarengiaye. Welcome also Professor Juliana Mbegu. We welcome Professor Patrick Igbenadua. Welcome Professor Loretta Iniage. We welcome Professor Rodaro Ibe. And we welcome ASU Secretary Dr. Success Abusama, as well as Professor Kingsley Obede. Please put your hands together. And to conclude the 321st inaugural lecture, we ask that all service cease. Hello, all service of refreshment cease. Thank you. We may now rise, We may now rise for the Uniben anthem and the third stanza of the national anthem, after which the Vice Chancellor's procession will leave the auditorium and then you resume service. Don't resume service yet. Thank you.